Hello friends and welcome. I'm Sarah Liz and I am back with a stepped up emergency card video. I am so excited about this one. I love these cards. So the kit came out on the 15th and it is more holiday. So there's some sassy Christmas and holiday, some sweet Christmas and holiday, a little bit of Hanukkah, some religious Christmas, and then a card sketch. And really this video is about stretching that sketch. So here's our first card and it has a see-through panel on the front. I'm starting with a top folding A2 card base. Then I have two little strips of some white glitter cardstock. I just used my scrapbook.com Slimline strip dies. Then I have a piece of acetate. You guys, I am trying to remember whose video I was watching. I think it was Lou Collins, and she said she uses shrink plastic when she's doing things like this. It is so crystal clear and nice and thick and heavyweight, and I love it so much. So we're actually going to start by working on the inside of our card. We're going to stamp the inside. This is the Falling Snow background stamp from Simon Says Stamp. And I'm just going to put this in my MISTI. I am masking off the top of my card just a little bit. And then I'll line it up on top of the stamp, flip the back of my MISTI onto my card base. And then because I put a little removable adhesive on there, it will stick to my MISTI and then everything is lined up exactly where I need it. I'm using some Versamark ink and a little anti-static powder. And I'm going to stamp this on here, and the embossing powder I'm using, I've had for a million years. I will try to find something similar to link below because I'm pretty sure this, I think it's Stampin' Up! And I don't think they make this one anymore. It's a clear embossing powder that has some glitter in it, which is exactly what I wanted for a little bit of snow in the background. So I'm going to tap off the excess and then I will go ahead and heat set that. And you can see it just turns a darker shade of the gray that is my card base, but there's some amazing shine to that. And I really, really love it. So I have these two pieces. One is 1 inch and one is 1/2 inch. And those are going to be on either side of my card. I'm looking at the card sketch and you can see there's like a gray strip on the left and a gray strip on the right. So I've taken a few liberties to change those measurements slightly. And I'm using those to draw lines on my card base to show you where I'm going to cut. You wouldn't need to draw the lines if you have a trimmer kind of like this one. It's easy enough to measure it. And I'm just going to take my blade and I am sliding it from the edge to that center score line. And then on this one, I'm just measuring 1 inch and I'm going to slide my blade just to that center score line. And I'm sort of stopping and checking and making sure I don't go too far. It doesn't matter if you overshoot it a little bit, but I'm picky. So here's the thing, I don't use this trimmer much. And this blade has been in there for an unknown amount of time. So I went to trim the top, and because I had scored it and broken down those fibers a little bit already, it was like I had torn it. It just looked really ragged. So I'm just going to take my scissors and clean that up a little bit. But then my card base is ready to go. I have these two little flappy pieces on either side. They aren't super sturdy. This is 80-pound cardstock. I normally like 100-pound for a card base, but we're going to strengthen it with our acetate. You can use whatever acetate you have that has a little heft to it, but the heavier it is, the sturdier your card will be. So I have added double-sided tape as completely as possible to both of those flaps. And I've just put my card base into my MISTI to make sure I am lining this up exactly on the edges where my card will fold, and then on one of the sides. And here you can see it is firmly adhered and pretty sturdy. I put the same double-sided tape on it in the same places again because I'm gonna add some white shimmer cardstock on top of them. And again, I'm just using the corner of my MISTI to help me line everything up. I use my little pokey tool to release that backing paper on the double-sided tape, and then I'll just lay my cardstock strip on there. And here is sort of the beginnings of my card base. Okay, now I messed up a little bit. I was supposed to adhere 2 strips of glitter cardstock to either side of that white shimmer cardstock, and I forgot. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and make the rest of the card, and I'll figure it out later. I have used my Sunny Studios scalloped circle dies. and just use the largest one here in place of that circle that's on the card sketch. This is going to be a little bit bigger, but it's what I had. So again, use what you have. I will always link my supplies below, but you don't have to use the same ones. Use this as inspiration. I would love to see if you make a card with a clear front like this. Tell me all about it. I do have to gush about those PhotoPlay sentiments. I love a word die, and those are just, I think they came out last year, and they're so playful and fun. So I stacked up 2 of the ho-ho-hos, and then I'm going to start assembling my card. I'm beginning by gluing this circle piece directly to my card base. I know you can see the glue through the back. We'll fix that later. I know I want the ho-ho-ho slightly towards the top of that, and then the present is going to take the place of the little circle that was like our sentiment circle on the card sketch. I put the present together. It's from the Christmas Wreath add-on from Spellbinders. I love it because of the bow. The bow is absolutely fabulous. Like, it's something special and extra. And it feels really fancy to me. So I put one together with pink and silver, and then I thought, what if I did a blue bow that matched the ho-ho-ho? So I tried that, and then I didn't really like it. But at least I left it in here so you could see kind of how this bow goes together. It's pretty simple. I've used it in another video or two because I'm a little obsessed with it. And there's so much dimension, but it's so quick and easy. Like, it's one thing to have a card that is 10,000 little die cut pieces put together. That is a work of art, and it takes forever. But to put together one little die cut piece doesn't take very long, and I just feel like it elevates the card. It gives you layers and textures, and it's something that you're not going to find on a store-bought card. So I am adding glue to the back of my present, but I'm being really careful. There's a little piece of it in the bottom left that's overlapping the acetate. I did not put glue there. Okay, so you can see the back of the present, but it doesn't look all mucky. But the back of the scallop circle is a train wreck. So I am creating another scallop circle here with a piece of that same blue cardstock on some white silver cardstock. And I will just line that up so it matches right over the top of the scallop circle that's on the front of my card. So I have matching scallop circles on the front and then on the inside. I need a place to write my sentiment, and all of that embossing on the inside of my card is a problem. So I've used just some plain white cardstock on a light blue scallop circle, and I will put glue on the back of that, and then I'm going to lay it on top of the other scallop that's on the inside of the card, line it up, and I will close the back of the card onto that so it will be completely hidden when the card is closed. So that nearly finishes up card number 1. I'm even like showing it off to the camera and realizing I forgot to put my strips of glitter cardstock on there. It's not a big deal. This is how I go about it. I just use my little pokey tool to lift up the very edges of where I need to put things to sort of hide them underneath. I couldn't get the strip to go clear along that column, but that's okay. No one's gonna know. It is overlapping that white shimmer cardstock. It is not on the acetate, so there's no glue to hide. And I just kind of cut it at an angle so it's easier to tuck it underneath the scallop circle, and then I will trim off the excess. I tell you what, I was able to get all of that glitter cardstock on there using only one strip because I didn't have to run it the entire length of the card. So I guess I am just showing you another technique on how to be really stingy with your specialty cardstock. Once I get those lined up, I will just trim off the excess from the backside, and then the card really will be done. The glitter cardstock looks really subtle on camera, but in person, it really does add an extra special something that I think elevates the card. So I still think it was worth it, even though it was extra work. This one, oh friends, it's a little bit of an interactive something. I am starting with the scrapbook.com slim nested stitched scallops. I had to re-record that thing like 5 times, you guys. I just couldn't get the tongue twister out. And then the piece that fits inside follows the card sketch. It is 2 3/4 by 5 1/2. Also, for our circles, we're really kind of looking at the sketch upside down, so heads up on that. I am just going to use some wet glue and add this slim piece right to the middle of that stitched scallop piece, it fits perfectly. I did not design the sketch around this. This was a happy accident. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add that to my card right kind of where it would be on the original sketch. I was trying initially to do the entire thing like the sketch was upside down, but the balance was off. I needed this to be on the left-hand side of the card. Then we're going to use the Merry Mug Creations. I'm sure you've seen this. It is all over. It is so stinking cute. I have cut the mug from the same blue cardstock that we used for the Ho Ho Ho's, and I wanted to darken it up just in 2 spots. So I'm using an alcohol marker on the very bottom, and then where it's going to be the inside of the cup, and you're going to kind of see that. You don't need to do the whole thing. You won't see it once you layer that top piece on top. And then I'm going to pop up the top die cut for the mug so we can slip things in and out of there, and it becomes this cute little interactive element that is super easy. I don't like white foam tape showing around the edges of a die cut like this, so I used the exact same marker and just ran it along the edge of that foam tape, and now it matches the mug. I am curling this very carefully along the edge of the top piece of the mug. I'm getting as close to the edges as I can. Otherwise, it's a tight fit to get the critter in and out of the mug. I've also taken off the backing from both sides of that foam tape to help me curl it around and make it easier to manipulate. So I have a 2-inch circle and some light gray cardstock that will slide perfectly in and out of that mug. That is the same size circle we would use as a mat for an emergency sentiment. So if you didn't want to make a critter, but you have the mugs, because it's 2 separate die sets, I think the critters are called Whimsical Winter Critters, but you could just pull an emergency sentiment in and out of the mug. If you don't have the mug die, you could use 2 circles and just sort of cut them off a little bit. You could do something really similar, or you could make a little pocket using squares, or you could just put an emergency sentiment on there. I just think this whole collection is the cutest thing I've seen in a really, really long time, which is not surprising. Nicole Spohr makes some of my favorite cards. Like, she just gets cute, and I love that. So I know that these critters are designed to go on a circle that I think is like 2.5 inches, but they fit just fine on a 2-inch circle. And actually, I kind of like it. Bringing the features closer together just makes it look smaller and cuter. I picked a random handful of features. Maybe these are supposed to be a bear. There's all kinds of ears I could have added on there, and I don't know why I didn't, honestly, except that it does fit better with just this little round piece. So eyes, nose, mouth, and then there are other accessories to choose from. So I'm going to use this little beanie hat that is so cute, but there's also some earmuffs. There's a handful of like bow options. It's so good. It's so good, you guys. So I added glue only to the brim of the beanie because the rest of it is going to be sticking up behind it and people are going to see the back of it. And then I used a lighter green just around the edge of that. These are intended to be able to be turned into ornaments. So it's really great that there's also a little loop at the top where you can add some ribbon to help pull that out of there. I have chosen Happy Holidays and Good Luck as an emergency sentiment on the back, and I love that for it. I want to make sure that when I give this card away, people know that they can pull that critter out of there. So I am using the Papercrafting Magic Stamp Set from Trinity Stamps. There are lots of sets like this, but I am just stamping the word pull right onto the beanie. I'll use my VersaFine Clair black ink. It's a pigment ink, and I always get a crisp impression the first time. And since I was free range stamping, you know I was going to do whatever I could to make sure that that turned out right. So this is some old ribbon from my stash. It's like a glittery silver, and I just sort of threaded both of them through that loop and created a little sort of pull on there using that ribbon, and it fits again right into that cute little mug. So I know I want some extra layers on here. I've got another circle that's actually, I think, 2 1/8 of an inch. I just have a little tub with extra circles for emergency sentiment. So I grabbed one of those And then I've got a little bit of a pale pink ink. I wanted to make sure I wasn't adding too much, so I tried using just what was on my brush and it wasn't enough, but there's always some in the lid of my ink pad. So I just pulled from there instead of straight from the ink pad to keep it nice and soft. There is a snowflake in the Merry Mugs set, but I wanted 2 matching snowflakes. So I have pulled these from the Honeybee Stamps layered snowflakes. There are tons in there and they layer up and create these absolutely amazing snowflakes. And I can get one larger and one smaller in the exact same shape. So I've got one on that little pink circle, and then I've got this smaller one that I'm just going to add to my mug. But again, there is a snowflake in that mug set. When I go to put the mug on my card, I'm going to put some 1mm thin foam squares just along that one edge because my scalloped strip is pretty hefty. I actually doubled up 2 pieces of 65-pound cardstock because I didn't want it to be too thin, and then it made it like this big chunky piece, which I like, but it does mean that the mug was going to be a little off kilter without that foam. So then I'll add some wet glue and I will just add this straight onto my card. I've got my little circle snowflake, pink circle snowflake in the back as well. And then I will add my little bear. I'm gonna call him a bear right inside there. I've been hemming and hawing ever since I finished this video about maybe adding a strip sentiment towards the top. So you'll have to let me know if you think it needs a little extra something sort of towards the top right. But I am happy with it how it is as well. I think it's super cute. And I'm just gonna tuck my little bear right back in there. This one, it's so simple. And I can't get over how pretty it is. So this is the Snowflake Card Creator. This is from BB Cameron, who does amazing things for Spellbinders. It's been out for a little while. And then again, I'm grabbing those scalloped strips from scrapbook.com, but this time I've used the narrowest one. And again, I just cut it down to 5.5 inches. I'm using a strip of white shimmer cardstock in the middle of that is 1 1/8 of an inch by 5.5 inches. And it's just narrow enough to let you see the little stitching on the sides. So here's the thing, I'm gonna work on a layout here. I'm gonna figure out where I want that snowflake. I want it showing behind that scallop piece on both sides. And then I am gonna mess it up and end up with a happy accident. Isn't that how it goes? I love how few pieces are on this card and yet how pretty it is and really pretty simple. I will tell you, I was a little intimidated by this card creator. I've had it for a little while and it is kind of fiddly. There's all of these teeny tiny pieces, and to try to glue that onto something, I was getting overwhelmed. But this trick with the clear sticky grid mat made it so easy. It's holding all of those little fiddly pieces in place. And so I can just add my glue and lay it right back down to my card. I always start in the very corner of my card so I know where to put it back. Here's the thing, I picked it up from one corner and I put it down in a different corner. So I need to come up with a way to mark like which corner is on the grid I'm gonna use and then which corner on the card I'm gonna use. I have mislaid down so many pieces lately. Just laugh at me, I'm laughing at me. It turns out fine. I'm moving the pieces around and I'm going to end up with the strip in a different place. I trimmed off the excess from that snowflake and I have 2 little snowflake pieces left over. They almost look like branches. It's all in this matte silver cardstock and I am going to tuck those behind my greeting, and I love that as an extra decorative piece. I ended up with my strip on the right here, and then I'm just going to kind of center my greeting, my 2-inch gray circle. So it's going to be right over the center of that snowflake and then overlapping my scallop strip. I'll tuck these little pieces right behind there with some wet glue. And then I'm going to need some foam to kind of lift up different parts of that gray circle and make sure that everything is going to lay evenly and not all cattywampus on there. So on one side, I am using some 2mm foam squares. Okay, these are from Spellbinders, but I think there's a couple places that make them and they're all really similar. Simon Says Stamp has some, But then I also added just a little line of 1mm foam from Spellbinders down the middle because those little extra pieces of the snowflake I tucked in there are also lifting it up a little bit. I added that to my card, and now I have Believe in the Magic of Christmas from that More Holidays emergency kit, and I will temporarily add that to the center of my card in case I change my mind later. I probably won't. I really love that. I feel like this card is a little magical. It turned out so much better than I had planned it out before I started filming, and I always enjoy that. So here is card number 3. We'll do a quick review of all 3 cards. Please let me know which of these is your favorite. If you are interested in the free printable, all I ask is that you subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. To find the printable, you can click more or show more, and it will be at the very bottom of the description box below. And I will see you next time.